It's September 6th, 2009, and I'm flying out to Las Vegas, Nevada to spend 3 days with one of the most enigmatic, charismatic, thoughtful, powerful, and interesting bodybuilders on the scene today, Kai Greene. I arrive in Vegas 3 weeks before the most prestigious contest in bodybuilding. The athlete I am traveling thousands of miles to meet is preparing for his first ever Mr. Olympia competition. All eyes will be upon Kai as he takes the stage against the most formidable physique competitors in the world. This is the contest that launched the career of Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is the contest dominated by Ronnie Coleman 8 years running, and currently the trophy being fought over by Dexter Jackson and Jay Cutler. The man that wins this show can without a doubt call himself the best bodybuilder in the world. To take home the Sandow his first time at the Olympia will take an extraordinary effort from Kai. One doesn't just stride into the ring and defeat the champ by being as good as the champ. In order to be the new champion, the challenger has to be better, far better, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, knock out the champ in order to win a decisive victory. I will spend 3 days in this mecca of decadence, experiencing bodybuilding at its highest level and exploring the mindset of one of its brightest stars. For Kai Greene, life has never been easy. Growing up on the cold streets of Brooklyn, New York, in and out of institutions and foster homes, Kai Greene has had to overcome many obstacles to get to where he is today. To prepare himself for his first Olympia, Kai Greene will test his body, his mind, and his spirit. During his 7 weeks in the blistering desert heat of Las Vegas, Kai will confront his most difficult adversary and find his greatest strength. I am an outsider to the world of bodybuilding. I began my video career in this sport when I taped my brother Dave Pulcinella as he prepared for a local bodybuilding show, and from that footage created my first DVD. Since then, I have covered bodybuilding as a professional filmmaker and have created several full-length documentaries. With each video I make about bodybuilding, I learn more about this extreme, sometimes crazy world. It's a fascinating subculture with many dramatic stories to tell. When the bodybuilding supplement company Muscle Meds offered me the chance to create a DVD about one of the top contenders to the 2009 Mr. Olympia crown, I said, "When do we start?" Who is Kai Greene? To answer that question, I traveled to Kai's hometown of Brooklyn, New York, to find out how a champion is created. Is he born or made? For most men, greatness is a quality that is earned with hard work, study, and perseverance. For bodybuilding powerhouse Kai Greene, being a champion requires all these things, but it begins with a state of mind. I arranged to meet Kai here at Fifth Avenue Gym to get to know him and his trainer, Oscar Arden, and begin to get some insight into their methods and philosophy during their last workout before they leave for 7 weeks of intense training in Las Vegas. Fifth Avenue Gym is an underground, hardcore, no-frills, old-school establishment. Kai greets me warmly, and I'm pleasantly surprised when he tells me that he's seen my work. We talk for a few moments, and I'm not surprised to find that he is deeply philosophical about his current challenge.
This whole game is about being a champion of mind, being in control of your own thoughts. Mind is everything. The most powerful thing on this universe, in the omniverse, is the power of thought. I think if you look at creation theory, they'll say, the creator spake it, and it was. Let there be light, and it happened. I think that's what we do.
When Oscar arrives, it's time to get down to business. Tonight is a shoulder workout. Delts, as the bodybuilders say. As I shoot, I am immediately impressed by two things: Kai's amazing strength and his intensity. The third thing I noticed is the relationship between Oscar and Kai. Oscar doesn't just tell Kai what to do, he goes through the workout with him. There is also an unmistakable fatherly or brotherly attitude that Oscar has towards Kai. It is a training relationship unlike any I've ever witnessed.
I didn't know much about him in the beginning, just somebody that shared the same interests that I shared, and we became friends. As we became friends, I know that he had a lot of potential, but I guess he lacked a lot of the guidance. He would kind of rough around the edges when it came to nutrition and training and certain aspects of life,
I remember Kai when he was just a little one, when he was competing at the, 94 Delaware show? Because I was there and I remember seeing him, and he was kind of stringy but had nice muscles, and I've watched him throughout the years just slowly growing, and then all of a sudden growing into one of the best pros in the world. I always knew he had that potential. I thought so, even back then.
Kai Greene. I saw Kai Greene a long time ago. He was competing probably as a middleweight, somewhere in the neighborhood of 176 pounds. And he's small, but he is just put together. Every body part was there. He had sweep on his quads and little waist and a big back. And he posed way different than anybody else.
Over the years, Kai has built on his promising framework, adding many pounds of muscle, turning pro in 2004, and winning several major titles, including, most famously, the 2009 Arnold Classic. Despite all of his success, it is clear that he is not taking the Olympia lightly, and is grateful for Oscar's presence.
Man, honestly, we just got so much riding on this part of it. I depend a great deal on Oscar, because honestly, this is new territory even for me.
He's more really like a brother, like a younger brother, and I care and I love him very much. My mother considers him like a son. My children love him. My wife, just amazing. Whether it was bodybuilding or not bodybuilding, we had the same relationship. It just happened that bodybuilding connected us.
everybody on a team has an assignment. A successful team, I think, is successful because the people that they have delegated to carry out specific tasks, they're doing it and not falling short.
I do need for him to take this to the ultimate level and totally devote himself 100% physically, mentally, and spiritually to the task at hand without, involving, any other things, any other elements that come into that it can easily come and interrupt. So it's about being totally focused, and dedicated, and not allow anything to come in and take any energy away. That's how it's gonna be,
In the midst of all this positivity, there is a dark side to Kai's philosophy as well. I find out about it when I ask him about Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman to me is definitely someone that, both worthy of a tremendous amount of respect. I think the real Ronnie Coleman, though, probably will definitely never be privileged enough to know. Where does a man have to go in order to put 800 pounds on his back and say, I'm gonna squat down to the floor and stand up as many times as I can before, I pass out or, blow something out, or, just the rage that would have to be inside that, to begin to open up and talk about,
It comes from rage?
This dude put 800 pounds on his back, squatted down to the floor as many times as he could before he threw up. You tell me, where does this guy have to go? I said, there's violence in there, there's rage in there. You say, well, you ask me, is it violent? Is there rage? I'm saying I believe there has to be. Because I just don't, until you try to put 805 pounds on your back and squat down to the floor, then you realize, I really there's something else that has to be motivating me to do that, because there's no way I can do that and say I'm a nice guy. I might be a nasty motherfucker behind the scenes, and I might be ready to really be able to call on that when I need to, and that's what makes me proficient at my job. Should it be being a linebacker? Should it be being a man outside on the line fighting for the country? Or, should it make me a good cop? Or would it make me, a good athlete right now? I think there's a psychological profile that I think, if you really explore it, it probably would alarm people to think about, who this guy must really be. Because you cannot be just a very simple person to explain, a simple person to understand, with that kind of ability.
This is the final workout before both of them fly to Las Vegas to train in seclusion for the 7 weeks preceding the Olympia. It seems like an excessively long time to me, but Oscar has his reasons.
Like soldiers go away to Iraq, their families have to go, that's the type of, what they have to do to perform. You can't be worried about your wife, your girlfriend, you can't be worried about your bills. You have to focus, on the enemy and attack and destroy, and this is the goal that we have, and this is what we have to do. It's like a camp. It's more like a Bacchus training camp. You get up, you have your meal, your cardio, your training. It becomes away from distractions, away from drama, away from stress, and just focusing on the task at hand.
The Mr. Olympia is the place where the biggest, the baddest, and the best IFBB professional bodybuilding champion of the world sits on his throne. When you aspire to become that, to prove that your best efforts can be met with the honor such as that title, it's a giant step. It's a giant step.
Kai and Oscar have been training in Vegas for nearly 4 weeks when I meet them for a second time. The lush growth of the Midwestern summer rolling beneath me slowly gives way to scrub brush and miles of arid western desert. The cab ride to the hotel that Kai and Oscar are staying in quickly passes by the familiar sights of the Strip and enters a somewhat barren and desolate industrial park. The hotel, though clean and modern, is a far cry from the luxury hotels, which can be seen off in the distance. There is no restaurant, no casino. Before heading with them to the gym for our first video session, I meet with the Mr. Olympia contender and his trainer in their room. Rather than interrupt them with an invasive interview, I decide to hang back, observe, and get into the rhythm of their lives. I am immediately struck by the somber atmosphere.
What causes God to get up off the throne, so to speak, and come to where we are is when we start giving Him praise, when we go around in faith, expecting His favor. And know this.
Oscar made a meal for us. While we eat, not a word is spoken by anyone. Instead, we listen to an internet preacher and watch a motivational video.
Comes the moment that you decide. Decision changes everything.
Oscar had done his homework and had brought with him a library of positive reinforcement. These CDs and DVDs would form the soundtrack of my entire time here with him.
That's trying to keep you down. With a small adjustment in your attitude, it'll be the very cloud God uses to shower His blessings and favor. When we feel this heaviness, especially when that discouragement is trying to follow us around,
all the forms that man fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought that thing. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear, for we know that we can create what we want to create, and we can get what we want to have, and can become what we want to be.
Watching Kai, it seems like he's in a constant state of meditation. In one of the most decadent places in the world, Kai Greene is living a life of self-denial. Amidst the indulgences of the flesh, Kai and Oscar have carved out an oasis of discipline. On our way to Gold's Gym, we drive by the Strip. We are like a bubble of purity, passing through a corrupt artery.
Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe.
Collect your thoughts, clear your mind. Yeah. Let's go, lightweight. Still a warm-up. Let's go. On 3, my count. 1, 2, 3, up. Let's go.
As we get into the workout, I can see that Kai is still training intensely at this point.
3, 4, 5.
And Oscar is still working along with him, matching him set for set, if not weight for weight.
All right. Good. 4. Good power. Let's go. Good shoot. Remember what I said in the locker room. Never forget that. So that's your thoughts to your mind. I mean 100%. I do your lift off. Count on 3. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, 4, 5. One more. All you. Up. All I need from you is 4 all-out reps. I need you to feel rested, rejuvenated, and powerful enough to knock out 4 with no problem. Up, let's go. Let's go. 4, let's go. Strong. Up. 2. One more. Oh, you perfect. Good shit, man. Nice. Come on. Listen, he reached out. I need your muscles to feel this weight, to feel this resistance. This is 500 pounds, dude. 2 reps. Then we're gonna strip it to 4, then to 3, then to 2. But all you focus right now is mastering just 2 reps. Allowing those 2 reps to build, maintain the thick muscle that you have. I would never ask you to do anything, like I told you before, that you're not capable of. It doesn't matter how you're being. In your mind, I know you can do this. I need you to awaken that part of yourself. Bring that out right now and give me everything you got. Leave nothing fucking behind. You hear me? 100% effort. Let's go. Another one. Up. Yes. Perfect. Let's go. 4. Up. 1, 2, 3. One more. Lock it. Back. 2. No, let's go. 6. Let's go. Block. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 more. One more. Up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more. Lock in. You do the work. You do it. Push. Lock in. Okay.
An unsettling thought begins to occur to me. Throughout our evening together, I begin to get the feeling that Kai and Oscar don't really want me here. Despite their initial enthusiasm to have me on the project, it seems now like my cameras are unwelcome intruders, threatening to disrupt their concentration. At this level of competition, I know that the slightest thing can have major consequences. I do my best to be as inconspicuous as possible. I ask no questions and try to blend into the background. And then it happens. During a routine warm-up set, Oscar suddenly falters and nearly drops the weight. He has pulled or torn something.
Let's go, man. Let's keep the focus going. 3 plates for 8. I'm done with this training today. I'm just gonna train you right now. Don't put energy in what's going on with me. I'll take care of this. Be here now. Focus on what you're doing. Pretend like this is, we're encased in a bubble and there's nobody distracting. It's just about you connecting with your muscle group, getting it thicker, stronger, and better.
Suddenly, I feel like I am intruding on something very private and very personal. Every documentary filmmaker knows that the presence of a camera changes everything. How much of an effect am I having on Kai and Oscar?
And keep it going, all right? Let's go, baby, come on.
My respect for what Kai is attempting to do makes me extremely self-conscious.
1, 2, 3, up! Let's go.
I am becoming afraid that my presence might deflect his trajectory even slightly and cause him to miss his mark.
4, 5, there you go.
Aim to receive a certain amount of success and the things that come along with that success. Everything has an impact. There's something to be said for learning how to maintain your calm and your poise. Because, you know, it's all a part of it.
1, 2, 3, up! Let's go. Up. 1. Good, man. 2. Up. One more.
It's one thing to toil in obscurity with no one watching, working towards a big break. It's another thing to be an elite athlete with sponsorships and money at stake. At this level, the media spotlight is inescapable, even in the somewhat esoteric world of professional bodybuilding. Your privacy becomes a commodity. The adulation or criticism of the fans is never far from your mind, and now, any misstep or difficulty is broadcast for the world to see. Kai's rise to prominence in the world of bodybuilding has happened relatively quickly, and it may be that he has not yet adjusted to the increased scrutiny that this notoriety brings.
One of the reasons of being isolated is to be isolated, to be away from everything. And any camera, it could be a distraction. The last thing you want is a camera to catch you at less than your best, because you unveil everything to a camera, especially, getting ready for a show. It's a time that you're vulnerable. Your calories are low. Whatever energy you do have, you're putting it in your cardio and your training, and you don't have much left. So to deal with anything else that may seem a distraction, you have very little patience and energy for.
Kai seems to get himself under control tonight and finishes this chest workout strong. But I worry what tomorrow will bring. Driving back to the hotel, Kai and Oscar are even more subdued than before. Along the way, we pass the hotel where the Olympia will be taking place. The next morning dawns with a typically Las Vegas forecast of 108 degrees. Kai isn't scheduled to hit the gym again until early afternoon. That gives me some time to explore the area around the hotel. This is the other Las Vegas. Far from the glitz and glamour, it's the Vegas of dry floodways, abandoned shopping malls, and empty construction sites. It's the behind-the-scenes Vegas that few people who come here on vacation ever get to see. And it is the perfect place for a man from Brooklyn to separate himself from the rest of the world and and concentrate on preparing for the biggest day of his life. And yet, I can't help but wonder, why come out so far in advance of the show? Why is it necessary to spend 7 long weeks here, doing nothing but eating, sleeping, working out, and meditating on bodybuilding? Do other Olympia athletes require this kind of all-or-nothing discipline? As always, my touchstone for any questions I may have about bodybuilding is my brother.
I'd rather push it too far than not far enough. If for 7 weeks of my life, which is a small-ass little chunk, if I have to do nothing but live and eat and breathe bodybuilding to the exclusion of watching television, talking to friends, with the Olympia at stake, I'll do it. I'll do it. If I had ever made it to that level and the Olympia was at stake and I had a shot at making history, I mean, I could be the first guy to ever win the Olympia, the first shot. I don't give a fuck what I have to do. I would lock myself in a room and I wouldn't talk to anyone or do anything other than eat, sleep, train, whatever. That's it. So I agree with that mindset.
The appointed workout time arrives, but instead I get a text from Oscar telling me that they are not ready. I wait a little longer and get another text. Day is turning into night, and I am still waiting. Kai is simply not ready to go. At this point, Oscar is doing everything. The cooking, the cleaning, and the planning. All the while monitoring Kai's health and emotional state.
The circumstances which a man encounters with suffering are the result of his own mental inharmony.
To give Kai a bit more time to recuperate, Oscar and I decide to make a much-needed supermarket run to stock up on supplies for the next few days. At times like these, Oscar becomes the spokesperson for Kai, relieving him of that duty as well.
Sometimes he gets up in the morning, just exhausted, drained, fatigued. He'll have some coffee, take his vitamins, we'll come and do cardio. But I know the last thing he wants to do is cardio. He's hungry. He pushes us to the point where there's nothing left. Sometimes even after a cardio session, it's intense. He's laying on the floor. It just needs about 10 minutes or 15 minutes just to get his heartbeat back to normal and his breathing back so he can barely walk to the car. And in the car right here, he'll just have his meal and eat it cold. And go home, shower, and go back to the room, shower, and eat another meal before he naps. Without those, little naps for the day, he couldn't survive, I called for 40 pounds of lumber.
Oscar has trained many winning athletes over the years. How does one get to be the guru of champions? At one time, Oscar himself was a competing bodybuilder with several wins under his belt.
Well, I never started this sport of bodybuilding to be a guru, a trainer, or a coach. In fact, don't like it when people, refer to me as that. I had pictures on my wall, and my goals and my dreams were similar to Evan's, to Desmond's, to Kai. I didn't say, okay, I want to be, a guru in 10 years. I want to be a coach. I want to train pro. No, man, I wanted to be the one on stage winning. I wanted to be the one doing stuff. But along the way, what happened was, as I began helping individuals, they started to producing great results. I started getting a line of people wanting me to help them, and really that's not what I intended to do, but I was really good at looking at an individual, seeing what they need, make the adjustments, and let's go for it, and they won, women, men, hundreds of athletes that I've worked with. Usually it's around this time that I call my wife and leave her messages. That's the way we communicate sometimes, just she calls me, she leaves me messages. I call her, leave her messages. Sometimes she calls me, she leaves recordings of my son trying to talk, or my daughter leaves me a message. But it's just temporary. All of us have to pay a price one way or another to create something great in life. Nothing great ever comes without a sacrifice or a payment somehow. If it did, then it wouldn't be great.
It's 10:11 p.m. Nearly 12 hours have passed since our original scheduled meeting time, and Kai is finally ready for a leg workout.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
However, Oscar informs me that he won't be squatting tonight. Kai is known for his powerful squats, but the whites of his eyes are still full of blood from the previous squat night, when he pushed himself so hard that the blood vessels ruptured. Despite this setback, the work must go on.
2, 3.
The Olympia draws ever nearer, and time is running out.
8. Come on, 2 more. 9. 1 more. Nice.
Bodybuilding is rigorous and repetitive. Anyone who wants to succeed in this sport must master the discipline of robotic repetition while maintaining a high level of physical intensity.
Take your time, relax. 2, 3, 4.
Yet even the most dedicated bodybuilder eventually comes face to face with the reality of flesh.
19, 20.
Tonight, Kai is crashing into the limitations of the human body. Again and again. At this point, there is no Kai without Oscar. It seems like Kai has given himself over to Oscar completely.
Catch your breath. On my count, begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. 2 more. Let's go. Number 1. 1 more. Up.
Oscar tries to explain what I am seeing in a way that I would understand. But there is nothing in my experience which I can relate to this.
The Arnold, when I trained him for that show, I pushed him to the limit. And I know the Olympia has the quality of competitors coming in here are much higher than the Arnold. So how do we face new competition or achieve a goal that we never achieved before? By doing things that we haven't done before, pushing the body harder than we pushed before.
The responsibility now resting on Oscar's shoulders is as staggering as the weight Kai must continue to push with his rebelling body. Like a father, like a brother. Tonight, this gentle drill sergeant gives Kai what he does not have.
Collect your thoughts, focus everything with your energy into your calves. Focus on the stretch and the contraction, that's all I want. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
How do we go to the point where it doesn't get to him? It's in his mind. So this is where it becomes similar to like a monk in a monastery, because it becomes very spiritual, it becomes very mental. You know, right now it's all in the mind. He could lose it mentally, you know, if I wasn't here or he's not keeping it together, and a lot of guys unfortunately do. But right now, the only way he's going to keep it together is to keep his sanity, to stay focused, and the ability, you know, to be a mental warrior, to be a mental beast, and because he wants to win so bad, he'll go through whatever uncomfortableness in order to succeed.
Eventually, Kai's frustration with himself and his mortal flesh gets the better of him.
Whenever you catch your breath, going down to a plate, I need you to get your hamstring stretched for 15 more.
When any man, or any person, and any individual embarks on a journey, in the path of achieving something that challenges their best, challenges them in a way to bring forth their best, the best connection with their concentration, the most focusedness of their thoughts, you end up having to stop and think, well, why am I doing this? Because at times it can become overwhelming.
None of this is what I expected to see here. Is Vegas Kai's sanctuary or his prison?
There are times when it felt like both. I think the times when it felt more like a prison would be the times when you might have needed to stop and reassess, who you were and why you're doing this. In fact, you're there in a purpose to exact your will on, a circumstance, to bring your will into fruition, to create the reality that you want. So I guess in doing that reasoning, you realize that, well, I'm not in a prison at all, and should it start to look like that, may mean that, hey, I need to refocus my thinking. Maybe I'm getting away from the right thoughts that keep me grounded in the path of increase.
This is a case where even failure is success, for the failure is not in the effort, and every earnest effort adds an increment of power that will eventually accomplish the end aimed at. We can then gain the full and complete power of determining what character, what types of thoughts we entertain.
Oscar decides to let Kai off the hook. Based on what he's seen tonight, Kai can skip the next cardio session. But then, Kai surprises me, and Oscar.
How do you feel with the meal and the dinner?
Oh, I feel good.
Feel better?
Yeah. I could do cardio.
Well, you can.
Yeah, I could do cardio.
You ready to do cardio now?
In about another half an hour.
Half an hour, okay. You do cardio.
But I believe, when the day does come, all this stuff that he's going through, his character, his personality, and in his life, it will make him stronger. Either this stuff will break you, or it will make you stronger. If I know Kai, it will make him stronger and better, because there's nothing else he can do getting ready for the show. I mean, if there was, we'd be doing it.
At 2:40 in the morning, Kai returns to the gym for an hour of cardio. By day 3, I've realized that Kai's schedule is no schedule at all. Meals are cooked and eaten according to Kai's needs. If he's not ready to go to the gym, it's back to bed, eat another meal, and try again.
A lot of people go sometimes by a schedule, or if they're working with a coach or a trainer, they're going by what the guy tells them. I go basically by what his body tells me. I go according to what his needs are, not trying to put into a format of what I want him to do. But I do have some theories and ideas, but basically sometimes they go out the window because his body dictates he needs something else.
I have one more workout to catch on tape before I fly back to the East Coast. At the request of the publicity department of the Olympia committee, I'm asked to get some physique footage to make a promo for the show. That means no sweats. The entire time I've been shooting Kai, he has kept himself covered, but I expected that. From what I know about him, it is his way. Oscar explains.
You know, for us and for him, it's about self-mastery. It's not about, putting trunks on and going to the beach and flexing or walking around with a tank top. But you see him very covered up. You know, like most people who gain a little bit of muscle don't want to go ahead and display it to the world. It's not like that. Some people get a kick of training in a tank top, looking at themselves in the mirror.
Right.
It's not that ego for him. There's so much ego in the sport of bodybuilding, and anybody that I work with, whether it's Orville Burke, Kevin English, Evan Centopani, Desmond Miller, Kai Greene, they don't have that ego that's about them,
At the gym, Kai is clearly reluctant to expose himself this close to a show. However, this is the elite level of bodybuilding, and once again, Kai realizes that certain demands must be met. Stripped of his red hoodie, he goes through a shoulder and arm workout for my cameras.
At this level, you're just not bodybuilding just for your own self. You have thousands of fans. You represent a supplement company. You always have to think about them as well.
You climb into the trenches of aiming to be a fruitful athlete in this sport, and you aim to receive a certain amount of success and the things that come along with that success.
You gotta be able to give them just enough, and still keep your sanity and still do the work you have to do, because without them fans, there will be no show. And they want to be able to see, capture a little bit, get a little bit in the person's life, and but they also understand that kind of too much, it becomes a distraction to the athlete,
You want to, work with and be sought after by people that potentially can help you, help your career. You want to have the top supplements available to you. And all of these things, there are realities that come along with that too.
As quickly as he appeared, Kai retreats again into his red cocoon. Before we leave, Oscar decides that Kai needs a mini cardio session, an intense 15-minute burn. The exhausted athlete mounts the gauntlet, a never-ending staircase, and begins his endless climb while Oscar manipulates the controls.
Pull it together, you got it.
Now faster, now slower. Oscar times the intervals, shocking Kai's metabolism even further into fat-burning mode.
You got 9 minutes to go. You can do it. We'll do it. No problem. Keep it together, man. You're doing great, man. Fucking good, man. Excellent.
After 3 days of watching Kai struggle through his routines, this is almost more than I can take. This is the worst yet, a torturous stairway to nowhere. Images and words from the past few weeks of shooting begin to pile up and come back to me in a flood. There's something going on here, something I'm missing.
This is where it becomes similar to like a monk in a monastery. Very spiritual.
All the forms that man fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought.
Watching Kai, it seems like he's in a constant state of meditation.
He cannot shape a thing until he has thought that.
Creator speaking, and it was.
One of the most decadent places in the world. Nothing great ever comes without a state of meditation. Then it occurs to me. 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Of course. Why didn't I see it before?
7 weeks in the desert is about 40 days and nights in the desert. Suffering amidst temptation. Do you know someone else that did that?
Well, I had no clue about drawing biblical parallels at all with the movement out there. I know that it's interesting. See, I didn't see it as suffering, and I didn't set it up in my mind to go suffer anywhere. It may have made look like suffering, but just to get up and do cardio, personally, I don't see it as suffering.
5 seconds to go. That's it.
Number one, I like cardio. I like to train. I love to exercise. I think that to do it under deficit of calories and other things is something that can at times become more difficult naturally on your body, but never did we start out with the negative in mind.
I head back home with over 6 hours of amazing footage stuffed in my pockets, still unsure if this seclusion was the healthiest thing for Kai to do. It will turn out that my concern for Kai is warranted, but not for the reasons I think. Upon arriving home, I continue to monitor Kai's progress in the final weeks leading up to the show. The video clips that are being posted on Muscular Development show Kai in what seems to be an even more fragile state than when I left.
If you believe that your father was a bum and he left you, or your mother wasn't any good, if you believe that your upbringing was substandard and therefore you have to walk around as a refugee from that crisis situation for the rest of your life, forever bearing the burden of that experience, then that will be your life. It's like you have to save your own life. Because nobody's going to be able to save it for you. So we have to do what we have to do.
Eventually the updates stop, his forum entries cease, and there's nothing to do but wait for the Olympia. The big day finally arrives, the Olympia. The best bikini, fitness, figure, and bodybuilding competitors in the world are gathered here in Las Vegas, Nevada to decide who will be their champions. For many months preceding this day, these athletes have been preparing their bodies and their minds for a few precious moments on stage. All of the biggest and best known names in bodybuilding are here. Many of the fans and reporters writing and blogging about the show online called the 2009 Olympia one of the most hard-fought, exciting, and competitive shows they'd ever seen. As expected, Kai takes the stage for his posing routine with his usual flair. There is no need for me to build suspense at this point, because if you are watching this documentary, I can assume that you are a fan of bodybuilding. And if you are a fan of bodybuilding, you already know that Kai placed 4th at the Olympia. The forums were buzzing with congratulations and excitement. Kai had placed higher than many other major competitors from the past on their first outings. And then came the apology video.
Truly, at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, if you were to ask a person honestly, hey, did you do this for that placing? 4th. The answer that resonates loudest, at least in my heart right now, is no.
This didn't make any sense to me, and so I did some research to find the placings of past Olympia competitors on their first outings. What I found shocked me. Victor Martinez, first time at the Olympia, 5th place. Jay Cutler, first time at the Olympia, 14th place. Dexter Jackson, first 3 times at the Olympia, 9th place, 9th place, and 8th place. Ronnie Coleman's first 4 times at the Olympia, 15th place, 11th place, 6th place, and 9th place. As far as I could see, top 5 was a reason to celebrate. Yet both Kai and Oscar were very disappointed. I needed to understand this. I needed to know what was going through Kai's mind as the placings were announced.
I'm focused on the end result. The end result is, I'm going to shake Joe Weider's hand. I'm here with, I didn't imagine the sand out every night before I went to bed. I'm sitting there holding the sand out. I know how much it weighs. I felt its coldness against my skin. I've done all the imagery work. This is the first thing I thought about when I got up in the morning. The last thing I thought about before I went to bed at night. I've kept my journals. I've stayed focused. I've gone to bed hungry. I've gotten up and did cardio the first thing in the morning. I've eaten nothing after doing cardio before going to bed at night. My body fat levels are excessively low.
And in 4th place, you look at somebody else. Kai Greene!
So I say your name and, you haven't seen, Branch walk up or Dexter or Jay yet, but they just said your name and they want to hand you something and, that's all a blur at that point. Like what? I don't, at that point you stop clapping, you're in shock.
Well, Branch they didn't say nothing about Branch. There must be a mistake.
Not working out quite the way, because why is Dexter still standing over there? And why is Brant, are you kidding me? And why is Jay still standing there? And how the hell is Branch still, they want to hand me, something's not right. There's not, okay, Phil Heath, I'm sorry for him, but somebody got to place 5th.
And it's not anything against the judges. It's not to say the judges were wrong. It's not anything against Jay Cutler. As much as it is, my God, this is not what I was working for.
You have mixed feelings. You have people think that, 4th place is a great debut. Olympia is fantastic. For us, we have high standards. We didn't train and make so many sacrifices for 4th. We went to win. So 4th, in some aspects, it's disappointing for everything we did.
That's supposed to be, why are they handing, they're handing me. I'm in shock. Stay together, keep it together. But Branch is still standing over there next to Dexter. Some woman comes up to you and hands you you smile and I'm gracious about it, but I'm just waiting for what I ordered. This is not what I ordered. There's gotta be a mistake. There's a mistake. As this internal monologue is playing, the people are still smiling and you smile too. And you have to smile because, the tears are welling up in your eyes and you can't, if you don't smile, then you might go to another extreme. And you can't go to another extreme because, you represent a whole nother idea. You're a professional bodybuilder. You quickly can recall what happens when Silvio Samuel in the 2009 Arnold Classic.
I sympathize with everybody I've ever seen get off that stage, you know, that had demonstrated a gesture or two that was thought to be suspect when they got it. Oh, wow. Did you see Silvio at the Arnold 2009? Oh, that wasn't sportsmanlike. What's this mean?
Fifth place to Silvio Samuel.
What's this mean? Man, in that moment, I could tell you what the that meant. And you're lucky that's all he did.
And if you'd have told me that these efforts would not be met with the end result, then why the is Dexter still standing there? You know, Joe Weider's already come out, and at this point, he's now, you know, shaking hands with Jay Cutler. There's been an explosion or something and confetti or some shit, you know, and all you know is this is not you, you know. At this point, you could really care less when they're like telling and who's coming in second and who's coming in third. And you're like, why do they even have me on stage here? Because I really want to just fall apart. You say these men are better men than you? Did they train harder than you? Did they smarter than you? No, I can't think of myself as a competitor. I'm a creator. Or maybe the package that I created wasn't good enough. What went wrong? And then you realize, yo, in order to think like that, you have to totally forsake everything that you learned while in this camp. These lessons that are the fundamental principles that all of your past success stands on. You can't question it, but you have to question it. It's a dialogue now because it's not a monologue, because you're questioning and answering in your mind. You got this whole duality thing going back and forth.
My knees feel like they're about to buckle. Yo, it takes everything to like give an interview after that.
You're led off the stage into a darker place, you know, as you're walking down the steps, and you almost can mistake that for a place of refuge and peace. And just as the tears begin to fall, and there's people with cameras.
You came out, you had an aura of confidence about you, it seemed they worked you, and they moved you around a lot. Was this one of the more strategic plays by the judges, or what do you think was happening with you when they called you out with those guys?
You walk off the stage, you're expecting to like have that moment to yourself. Nope, camera in your face. So are you happy with your place? What are you, asking me a loaded question? Do you want to see me play myself right now so that they can vilify me on the web blogs later?
In that moment, you hate them and the camera, and you hate the light that won't allow you to hide in this moment and be vulnerable. But this is what you asked for. You're the pro athlete in the spotlight. You're at the Olympia, you know. And just as that same camera and spotlight would be there when you triumph, it's also there when you have a moment like this.
But there was more here than just simple disappointment. Faced with their first time at the most prestigious bodybuilding competition in the world, Kai and Oscar let the whispers of well-meaning insiders cause them to change their game plan.
Everywhere he gets exposed, any official or fan or Kai, make sure you don't get too big, don't get too big. Keep the waist down, you know, look at the Olympia. If you're trying to attain something, you look at the current standard. The current standard of Mr. Olympia was Dexter Jackson. That is what they're saying, not Marcus Rule. So you're saying this guy 220 some pounds is Mr. Olympia. You know, and now every buzz, every magazine cover, you have a lot of people claiming Phil Heath as the successor.
Oscar took this advice to heart and formulated a strategy specifically designed to beat Dexter and Phil.
He had to get him actually smaller. He had to sacrifice muscle tissue. So by the time we got to the day of the show, he was 258, 260. He looked, oh my God, I wish I could have taken him from right there and put him on the stage. But because I had started the depletion and cut the water out, his body kept dropping weight. So in the morning, even though he was 258, by the time he stepped on stage, he was 250. That's already 5 or 6 pounds. less than the Arnold. And when Kai's muscles get smaller, they look flat.
This explains what I had been reading on the forums about Kai at the Arnold versus Kai at the Olympia. When compared side by side, the differences were noticeable.
That's why people were saying he didn't pop out. As soon as he went on stage, he didn't have that freaky or wow factor. And when you have a muscle that flattens out, the striations don't show as deep. So you think maybe he's holding water, maybe he's soft. But I can tell you, I can see him up close, he wasn't soft at all. He tried to play the game of Dexter Jackson and Phil Heath by coming in smaller and trying to beat them at their game. Kai is not meant to be a small little body. He's got bigger joints. He looks better at 265, 270 ripped. Even though, I mean, fourth place, it's great. But in order for Kai to be dominant and to know, Kai has to be at his best. He's got to follow his own game plan.
So was the 7 weeks in the desert really necessary? Or was it overkill?
In a way, you know, it was just no escape, you know, constant 24/7. You know, we were under the belief that to prepare for this Olympia, we have to go and do way more and above and beyond what everybody else was doing. And sometimes, you know, more is not always better.
Everything that you did do, you know, yields some kind of lesson to be learned. And it's the lessons learned that, you know, you're going to build future success on. So no, I don't think it was too extreme. I think it was a stepping stone towards future success.
But you know, what we did is try to play their game and see if we could beat them at their game. And what happened was, yeah, we beat Heath and we almost beat Dexter, but Jay came in big and massive. Branch came in big, ripping massive. And because they did what they had to do at their best. So in a way, we felt we gave the Olympia away to Jay. He's holding it for us for 1 year. We'll get it back to him next year.
We are a thinking center, a part of a thinking center, and that there is a thinking center that we use in the way of tools that are given us naturally. You know, that is us, is within us, and is in everything.
Failure is but a chapter in a man's life. It is not the whole story.
Back home in Brooklyn, I accompanied Kai to the gym for a light conditioning workout. This is his first time back in the gym in 3 weeks. His body needed to recuperate from his long ordeal. He seems to be in much better spirits than when I saw him last. I was relieved to see that videos posted after the Olympia showed the playful Kai we've all come to expect. But here at Church Avenue, he is all business again.
Going forward, you know, I think the real story is where, you know, we're training, preparing mentally, physically for vengeance, you know, and just to take everyone out, you know, and to present to the world the best, the biggest, the hardest that Kai can ever be, you know. So I think the real story, we're talking about, you know, ending it here. And I think the real story is what's going to happen next.
The weights he's using today are inconsequential. This is only the beginning, a first small step toward preparing his body for the difficult trial that awaits him. A resetting of the clock and a look ahead toward the Arnold Classic, where he will defend his title.
Fourth place is really at this level, it's really beneath what he can do, because I always figured Kai to be a fine-tuned car, and for the first shows, even the Arnold, I just pushed that gas just a little. I haven't pushed him to see what he can really do. There's a lot left in that human being in the sport of bodybuilding. In the past 3 years, he rose from taking last in a pro show to winning, the Arnold Classic, the New York Pro, the Colorado, the Australia, and taking fourth. And even though we messed up a little, still taking fourth.
Within 2 months, Kai will be back to pushing the heavy poundages he is known for. And I will be there too, continuing to chronicle the rise of this creative competitor for part 2 of this DVD series.
I'm not a Buddhist monk. I'm a person aspiring to become, a better athlete, more proficient at my craft as an athlete, also a better man. But I'm in the road to doing that. Will I ever be able to be the absolute, master of all? It's questionable. I can only continue to aim for the target. However, as I am en route or in the process of aiming for the target, it's safe to say that at the moment, there's a lot still to be desired in my own development. And I'm a work in progress.
In Columbus, Ohio, you will see, the Kai Greene that should have stepped at the Olympia stage.
If he goes back to what it took to win the Arnold, he's a difficult physique to beat.
And so Kai Greene prepares for the biggest challenges of his career. Part reigning champion, yet still an underdog, the successes and failures of the past are now preamble to 2010. For the sake of the documentary, we end the story here, but very often the end of one story is the beginning of another. As he defends his title at the Arnold Classic and makes his second attempt at the Olympia, the pressures and scrutiny will certainly increase. Can Kai master himself, adjust to the spotlight, and work within it? Will Kai's all-or-nothing work ethic produce one of the greatest bodybuilders that the sport has ever known, or undermine his success? Kai's most challenging adversary is often himself, but he also knows that his greatest strength lies within.